Good morning, everyone. Dr. Victoria Skirbo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. Today is Wednesday, June 23rd, and the moon is in Sagittarius all day. And I just dropped my whole astrological picture for the day. So pick it up. Sorry, guys. High tech here, guys. All right, so moon's in Sagittarius all day. Sagittarius is a philosophical moon. Sagittarius deals with truth and lies. Sagittarius deals with belief systems, with ethics and morals, with learning and teaching and understanding. We did have the moon make a conjunction to its own south node very early in the morning, sort of setting it up. Now, as the moon goes over the south node of itself, really, it's sort of a review of the past, perhaps a review of past beliefs, sort of a touchstone with that. And then the moon makes a number of aspects today that are some helpful, some challenging. We have a trine to Chiron. That trine sort of opens up the flow around our wounds and our shadows in Aries. That can, that can actually, sorry, it got really noisy here for a moment. Okay, that can actually sort of, it's almost like a superhighway to people's emotions and the beliefs around their emotions. And either coming from a place of healing the wounds or coming from a place of being wounded. So that is just, we need to be a little careful. Of course, that's true of the whole year of 2021. We have a sextile to Saturn in Aquarius. This allows us to utilize some of the knowledge from our past experiences to help us navigate the new structures that are necessary for society with Saturn and Aquarius. And we have an inconjunct to Uranus in Taurus. There can be some issues with maybe being able to pay for stuff and things like that. I don't know if you can see, but there is a bunny. It's kind of in the shade. So let me see if I can get a little closer so you guys can see this little bunny. Hi, bunny. I don't know, he's sort of in the shade right there in front of you. So I can get a little bit closer. Can you see him? Oh, yeah, I think you can see him. He's right in the center. Hi, baby. He's eating the clover. Okay, so what else? Well, there's big stuff happening today, but I want to move through the moon first. The moon also makes an opposition to Mercury. Remember, Mercury yesterday stationed direct. It's still barely moving, but it is barely moving forward. That's nice. It gives us an awareness around what needs to be talked about, perhaps. And at the end of the day, we have a square of the Sag moon to Neptune, one of those mini spiritual crises. I think what happens is we come into this day with one perspective, and we end with that perspective perhaps being challenged in some way. Not that it's necessarily wrong. Maybe we need to make some adjustments in it, or maybe we prove ourselves right. Who knows, right? All right, so what else is going on? Well, two big things today. The first one is a trine between the Sun and Jupiter. I'm putting it first because it happens first. The Sun and Jupiter are the two largest bodies in our solar system. I think they make up something like 7% of the mass of our solar system. But of course that kind of makes sense because the Sun, of course, it makes most of that. But then we have the gas giant Jupiter, which some astronomers believe might actually be a dwarf brown star that is sleeping, as it were. And certainly Jupiter has enough moons around it to almost be classified as a star in its own right. But Jupiter, of course, is in Pisces right now. If Jupiter is exalted. No, it's not. Is it exalted in Pisces? No, it's in its dignity in Pisces. It is the classical ruler of Pisces, Jupiter. So it's very comfortable there. Jupiter is an expansive principle, and of course, Pisces, being the last sign of the zodiac, is sort of expansion into infinity, to infinity and beyond, as it were. The trine is a Leo side trine, so it has the energy of creative self-expression. It has the energy of creativity, just in general, joy and happiness. And so there is a certain amount of that going on, but there can also be some cocksurety, if that's a word, I don't know, that comes with this as well. Jupiter and the Sun, in their negative aspects, tend towards arrogance. And so, we can experience this in many ways, depending on your perspective, your point of view, and the way you generally work with these energies. You can see all of that in the outside world today, and you can, of course, feel it inside of yourself as well. The other thing that's happening is that Venus and Pluto are making an opposition today. Now, this is an interesting opposition. It actually is the halfway point between the synodic cycle between Jupiter and Pluto that began back on January 28th, when these two planets conjoined at 26 degrees of Capricorn. And now, less than 6 months later, but a while later, we have come to the opposition. And so whatever was seeded at that time, whatever was planted at that time, we become aware of. Now, the relationship between Pluto and Venus is what we value, what's important to us. So our relationship to ourselves, it's a relationship to each other. It's a relationship to a certain extent to the feminine. And Pluto, of course, in Capricorn is power. And so we come to this oppositional point where we have the greatest perspective and the difference between our values and perhaps what power has to offer. The interesting thing is a couple of interesting things about this worth mentioning. The Pluto for the United States, of which I've been talking about for a while now, we're having our Pluto return. We're in the midst of our Pluto return. We've been in the midst of our Pluto return since about 2017, but of course now it's getting close as it ever will be, and in 2022 we have 3 exact conjunctions of Pluto and Pluto for the U.S. I bring this up because the U.S. Pluto is at 28 degrees of Capricorn, and so the initial conjunction and then the opposition today, which is actually at 27 degrees of Capricorn. So let me just go over that. Pluto in the United States, 28. The initial conjunction, 26. The opposition, 27. What's the matter, Charlie? Did you hear Charlie? He's crying because I won't let him out. He's in the window. I don't know if he's black. I don't think you could see him. So we come up with this opposition today, and the interesting thing is yesterday here in the States, they brought up to the For the People Act, right? The interesting thing about that is Venus in Cancer, you could call that for the people, and Pluto in Capricorn, you can sort of look at that as the powers that be, the ones that hold all the sort of money and strings, right? And here we brought it up, and we have a 50-50 split, right? We have 50 Republicans saying no. We have 50 Democrats saying yes. And really the opposition is kind of a 50-50 thing, right? But what it does bring, so we don't really expect resolution necessarily on this issue at this time, but certainly an awareness. And without awareness, how can we make choices? So, don't get too upset. I know a lot of my people here tend towards the more sort of democratic sides of things for those people who watch from the U.S. or interested in the politics of the U.S. I try not to make things too political. in the morning here. But I think it's valuable to point out the astrological aspects and the things that are happening. And this is a big deal. This is a big deal. And so we're on this precipice of change and shifting. But we have to get all the information. And of course, as I've said many times, the North Node is in Gemini, which is all about getting information. So we kind of see where we stand and how much further we need to go to get things perhaps more fair and more aligned in what the majority of people are what the value of the majority of people are. The voting rights, this is all about voting rights. I think I heard that 70 or 80% of people in the U.S. agree that there needs to be this voting rights bill to make it, to protect the vote. And yet half of the Senate said no. So I don't know who they're, well, I do know actually who they're representing, but it's probably not the people, yeah? And of course this can change and this can shift because things change and shift. So this isn't written in stone, nothing is written in stone, but it is information that will be valuable for us to move forward, right? Around our values and around what lies ahead of us when it comes to getting our essential needs met, which is really what Venus is all about, especially in Cancer, So, okay, so that is where I'm going to leave it. Let me show you a couple of things that have bloomed. Sorry, I know I'm talking and I'm not really paying attention to what I'm showing you. We have a couple more roses that bloomed here. We have these little, it's kind of hard for you to see because of the sun, I think, but those are beautiful yellow roses. They're different from Gretchen's roses and the showers of gold roses that we have. But it makes me realize that I usually seem to buy a lot of yellow roses. I think yellow roses are for friendship. That's the spiderwort that people love, and it's open during the day. Toward the afternoon, it closes up. Of course, all the little daisies, now they're starting to pass, so I'll eventually I will pull those out because they do look kind of messy. The hydrangeas are blooming. See, we have these. I love the colors as they bloom. They all turn different colors, right? These are blue hydrangeas. Ultimately, they turn blue. We have a lot of the lilies coming up here, the tiger lilies. And let's see, roses over here. More roses, the stelladoras, and if you look over here by these stelladoras, we can see these little raspberries. Can you see those? Those are actually black raspberries. Those are not ripe. They have to be black to be ripe, and they're so sweet. They're just so sweet. The fennel is starting to bloom. We should be seeing the wasps soon, and you know, they say what you see in the morning is significant. So I want to show you what I found this morning. Hopefully he's still here. Let me see if I can. Oh yeah, he's still there. Let me see if you can see him now. You gotta really look. See him? There's this little snake there. Let me see if I can get around to his head. He's so beautiful. There he is. He's just waiting. He's waiting for something to come along so he can eat it. Patience is a virtue. I guess perhaps that's what that snake is trying to teach us. Patience is a virtue. Perhaps it's time to shed old skin, or perhaps it's look for opportunities to feed yourself. Maybe that's what it means. You can take any of them. All right, and over here, if anyone's wondering, I think I've talked about this before. This is a spirea, which is kind of a bush, and of course the oak leaf hydrangea. So all right guys, much love. Have yourself a great day. Like and subscribe, and I will see you again tomorrow. Take care.